Hey there, my name is Chris Acton with Acting Creative, and this is A Handwoven Experience, episode 68. And in this episode, we're going to talk about our weaving edges. Yes, those pesky little edges we want to be razor straight, but more than likely end up with a little S-curve in them. Today, we're going to analyze what goes into a straight edge. The first thing that goes into a straight weaving edge is the weft, whatever's in your shuttle. Let's look at our little example here. So check out this section right here. I've got this real fine little, oops, I can't grab it. This little fine little cobalt blue yarn, right? So this is my weft yarn in this scenario. And look how my warp yarns respond. They kind of all pull together a little bit. They get a little cozy. But in this next section right here, I used a nice chunky wool yarn that's at least twice the size. And look what happened. Boy, they spread out. They relaxed, didn't they? So this is a natural thing that happens in weaving. A finer yarn on its own is going to encourage the warp yarns to kind of draw together, and a fatter weft yarn is going to encourage them to spread apart, to relax. So this is the first thing that really influences your edge. You can see in my project here, I end up with this very nice little kind of almost hourglass kind of profile to my edge. So this is a big influence of what your edges look like. If you're going to use a fine yarn and a fatter yarn together, here's what I recommend. Just alternate them a little closer together more frequently, and that will kind of average out the width of your project, and you'll get a straighter edge from there. But it's natural. This is what happens when you're weaving. So the second big influence in your edges in a project is, of course, how you're tossing your shuttle, the method for how you're throwing your shuttle back and forth in your project. So let's look at the project that I've got going on here. So here's what I mean. I'm going to clear my shed, take my boat shuttle, and I'm going to give it a toss. Now, depending on how tight I pull, see how my fabric is starting to move like that? If this pulls really tight, then my edges are going to be, the yarns will be close together, and they may not be quite as straight. So your goal is to be consistent how you're tossing from side to side. Now, here's one of the little tricks that I employ as I am trying to kind of be aware of my edges, is when I move my beater bar, because you have a couple choices, right? Here's what I like to do. I like to actually move my beater bar forward and switch my feet at that time, and then come back, versus releasing the whole thing and then switching it. I think for me personally, it feels like when I pull this forward and switch my feet here, it keeps my yarns kind of spread out. That's something for you to kind of play with. See if that is a good tip for you. But ultimately, here's what I recommend. Watch how your edges are going. If you have one side that seems to be much tighter than the other, try to relax. You know, we're not equal, we're not the same on both sides of our body. So maybe we're just pulling tighter on one than the other. That's okay. We're people. We're not supposed to be perfectly symmetrical. So watch your edge, make little tweaks as you go, but ultimately don't worry about it. I have found that the less I worry about my edges, the better they turn out. Especially as you're starting out. You have a lot of other moving parts that you have to be aware of and keep up with. And the truth is, the more you weave, the more control you will have, the straighter your edges will be. So try a couple little tricks, tweak a side, but ultimately keep going. Be consistent, be you, figure out what works, and your edges will come together. They'll get in line for you. I promise they will. So those are the two main factors when you're thinking about getting really straight edges, is what yarn is in your weft, in your shuttle, and secondly, how are you tossing your shuttle back and forth? Those are the two guys that are going to make a difference in how your edges look. I hope that helps. I hope that gives you a little something to chew on as you're approaching your next project. So if you are enjoying A Handwoven Experience, please hit subscribe and invite a friend. The more the merrier, I say. So have a great week, my friends. Good luck with your edges. I promise they'll get better. I promise they will. All right. Have a good one and happy